because the next day, the whole world was shut down from the quarantine. If I didn't continue playing the movie that night, that story that came out at 5 a.m. would have flown. They would have pushed that agenda that the movie didn't exist. So thank God for Rosanna Arquette. Thank God for her intellect and her foresight in pushing me towards doing the right thing and continuing the film. So I did. And the film played on. So the next story that came out at 6 a.m. was from Entertainment Weekly, was from Los Angeles Times. And they were saying, we saw the film. Rolling Stone, we saw the film. The film played. And that's when they twisted it again. Not those three. Those three all wrote what they experienced and gave a proper review. But AP, who was the only organization that got a copy of the film ahead of time, they had promised me an exclusive interview. AP said, we're going to do a huge exclusive for you. We're going to get really into this. We're going to really support you. Please submit to us a copy of the film with a watermark. And we promise we won't show anybody. We won't give a lead, but we need it for research so that when the reporter comes to talk to you, he'll know what he's talking about, because it's going to drop. The story's going to drop like at 5 a.m. immediately after the screening before you wake up in the morning. So we have to get your quote, right before the premiere. And the only way to talk about these things right before the premiere is if the reporter's already seen it. So with confidence, with an NDA, please send us that film. So we'd been asked by hundreds of reporters. We've been asked by hundreds of media outlets, but we said no to everybody. But the one company we gave it to was AP. And we gave them a copy of the film. And an hour before we were supposed to do this photo shoot and interview, the day of the premiere, which I had set time aside from them to go shoot down by my billboard, because we put up a billboard on Sunset Boulevard. And before we went down to shoot, I get a call that they were backing out. And I said, what do you mean they're backing out? We have an ironclad deal. And my publicist said, no, they decided that it wasn't worth their time because there's no new information in the film and no new allegations that make it worth it for them to talk about. It's a nothing burger. So that's what started the trend. If you look at what came out of AP, you look at what came out of everybody that next morning, the current constant theme was, yes, the movie did play, but it was a nothing burger. There was no new information. We've heard all these names before. And then they started this rumor that Feldman's been saying the name of for years. That started with Judy Haim on the Dr. Oz show. We even put that clip in the movie just to show her saying, oh yeah, he's been saying Charlie's name for years. Really? Prove it. Show me anywhere else in history where you heard me utter those words. Anytime, anywhere, it never happened because I never uttered those words. It was very difficult to utter those words. And you saw me uttering them for the first time on screen and how emotionally troubling it was for me to get those words out. And for every person we interviewed to get those words out. And that's another thing is they come back on me and they say, oh, no. Denied it. Publicist says, take a look at the source. Listen to Judy Haim. She's the mother. Okay, but wait a minute. Hold on a second. Why would the mother go against me? Why would the mother not want the truth out? What does she have to hide? And the truth is, there's a lot. There's a lot that we didn't put in the documentary. You talked about a potential sequel. Let me tell you something. We have so much more data, so much more information. People came forward with confessions about things that mother did when she was supposed to be a mom, and she wasn't a mom at all. There were things that, we heard about Charlie's character and the things he's done to other women, but we didn't put any of that in the film because our lawyers told us that we could not. If we wanted to get the film released, we had to keep it very singular and very focused on what the accusations and the claims were meant to be. As soon as we started stepping outside of that very small box they put us in, we were penalized. And by the way, the film almost didn't come out at all because the day before it's released or 3 days before it's released, we were slapped with the bill for the insurance, which was $1.3 million on a $300,000 budget film. I spent $300,000 on that film out of my own pocket. I got it done. That was it. I took some risks. Okay, but I knew that through the next couple of years, I could make that money back. It wasn't that big of a risk. I put a few years of my hard-earned work into it, every penny that I could muster, and I got it done. But then all of a sudden, you're hit with a bill for $1.3 million to get the insurance to put that movie out. So when I got that bill, I was like, well, that's it. It's done. I can't produce $1 million overnight. And through literally a blessing, a friend of mine brought me an investor the next morning out of nowhere, a godsend, an angel who actually put his name on the line and backed me for the 1.3. And I thought, well, that's okay, because look, we're selling tickets in historic volume. Nobody's ever sold this amount of pre-sale tickets for a digital distribution premiere of anything ever. Not even for live concert events. Nothing had ever pre-sold to that level. And the CEO of OnStream Media actually put that into a press release, which of course was never picked up by the press. But he talked about the hacking that night. He talked about the multiple DDoS server attacks that the company experienced, both the premiere night and again on the second screening the next day. Insurmountable attacks. Literally millions of signals being sent to their platform all at the same time, which overcrowded the signal and wouldn't allow it to get through. It shut it down. And they did it twice to make sure that neither screening could happen as scheduled. So yeah, very, very troubling. Very troubling. But anyway, the point being, they got it shut down, and the CEO said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never seen any other live presentation from, we've done events with Hillary Clinton, we've done events with the Obamas, we've done events with Miley Cyrus. And the biggest event that we ever had prior to this was, I believe it was the Allman Brothers, something like that, like a big rock band that had done almost as well as us. But they put all this into a press release. And they said, but the biggest event that we ever had leading up to the day of the event and pre-sales was this. And by the way, let me mention to you that nobody had ever released a brand new feature film premiere on digital streaming services before that. Now it's the standard. Now it's the standard. Everybody's doing it. The same exact ticket price that we charge, $20. Many of them say $19.99. But it's the same ticket price. It's the same format. It's my invention. I'm the one who launched the idea of digital streaming platform to premiere a film globally. It had never happened before my truth, and it has been the constant since my truth. So not only did they steal my idea, not only did they steal my business plan and how we were going to do it, but they shut it down and made it look like I never even did what I promised to do. So with all that frustration, I took the film down after 4 days. I let as many people who had paid for it and could hear about the problem, I left it up for 4 days running continuously. So if you'd paid for it, you could watch it 10 times in a row if you wanted to. I just left it open. Said, watch it. You paid $20, watch it as many times as you want, show as many friends as you want. I don't even care. Because I knew that I had already lost the lion's share of the money. It would never be recovered. There were literally hundreds of fake copies all over YouTube within hours, all over the internet. But there was much worse, much more devious than that. They literally created a simultaneous website that went up at the exact moment that our film was hacked, it was a copycat site with the exact same script on the front of the page. They stole the stream in real time. And when they put the movie up, it was under a URL called mytruthsdoc.com. Our actual URL is mytruthdoc.com. They put it under mytruths with an S, doc.com. They moved it up to the top of the Google News search. They moved ours down to like the third or fourth item in the Google News search. They took control of the wiki page. If you go to Wiki or IMDb right now, you will not find anything positive about me or my film. If you look down in the description of the film, you'll see a bunch of links, and those links lead to fake allegations and news stories created by the Wolfpack, who, by the way, are, besides we know Judy Hames involved, but these girls that were spies that came into my home during my summer tour and pretended to be just regular musicians who were in fact working with Marilyn Manson as part of a setup to silence me and to make false allegations against me and destroy my credibility as a musician.
Wow. So how much do you think you lost in terms of piracy, ticket sales, revenue?
$1 billion. Okay, so the film, what we have screenshots of, we have 2 million views sorted, 100,000 here, a couple 100,000 there, 20,000 here, 50,000 there. But you look at all the various YouTube pages that we're just talking YouTube alone, 2 million views. 2 million views at $20 per ticket is what?
A lot.
$30 million.
Yeah, 80 million, yeah.
80 million.
Yeah.
So that's just YouTube alone. That's not including the fake alternate website that they put up, which, by the way, started selling tickets, streaming our film, and selling tickets for $30 a piece, where we were only selling ours for $20. So they were not only selling our tickets, but selling them for more money. Then you had it coming out on all these BitTorrent sites, which we had no way of controlling. Then you had people making professional looking DVDs, studio level quality DVDs being promoted on the web as manufactured and approved by me. Packaged, brilliantly, perfectly packaged, as if the movie had been out for 4 months and they had the time to do it. So they made up mock-ups, and they screenshotted the mock-ups and made it look like a really nice package with my art, with my film, everything. So yeah, when you add together all of the film loss, all of the money that we spent on marketing and promotion, and then you talk about the damages personally and professionally, it's a lifetime.
So there were serious allegations made against Shane in the documentary. What is the present status of those allegations? I saw that he denied straight away.
What? I'm sorry. What was the question?
The allegations against Charlie were denied right away by him. What is the status of that? Has he been indicted for anything?
Are you joking? Are you joking?
He's untouchable.
Let's put it this way. I would put him in the same class as
And Prince.
And Prince.
So you've been campaigning then to extend the statute of limitations and have new laws to protect kids in Hollywood. Could you tell us a bit?
Not just campaigning. No, we passed those laws. I was part of actively passing the laws in both New York and California. Actually, the reason, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why many of the victims in the Jeffrey Epstein case were able to come forward and bring those charges, and the reason why R. Kelly is in prison right now, are both as a result of the law that we passed in New York, which was the CVA, the Child Victims Act, which allowed for the statute of limitations to be dropped in the city and the state of New York, and also allowed for a 1-year window for victims from any time to be able to come forward for the first time in my lifetime and be able to get justice for anything that might have happened. Now, that doesn't allow for criminal trials, but it does allow for civil trials. Now, that was in New York. The following year, we did a very similar law in California, except the one that we did in California not only pushed back the statute, but it also gave a 3-year window for victims and survivors to be able to come forward and get justice. So both of those laws are currently still active in both states, by the way. So if you are a victim, please take advantage of this window. Please come forward. Unfortunately for me, it doesn't help me at all. So it was great doing this. I'm glad that I was able to help. I'm glad that I was able to bring hope to survivors. But for me personally, I'm exempt because the people that abused were not. I was not. I was not abused by him. He never did anything personally to me other than try to bribe me to stop me from doing it. But aside from that, he never did anything to me. So that's not my claim. And I can't go after him. You know who I can go after? I can go after 2 deadbeats who, worm their way around Hollywood doing odd jobs. One of them spends his time half in Canada and half in Mexico to avoid extradition because he's already wanted for child pedophilia. He can't be found. His name is John. Alfie, however, the other guy is still around. I don't know where he is. He was working for the Dodgers, I'm sure bringing little kids into the dugout, and working for a limousine company where he could ploy kids with alcohol and put them in the back of his limo. That's what he was doing when we found him when I did Dr. Oz and we announced his name for the first time.
Well, congratulations on the statutes of limitations work. I've interviewed victims of Epstein, Nygaard's son, and it's so frustrating when that statute of limitations lapses.
Yeah. Have you spoken to Kai?
Yeah, we interviewed Kai. Yes, great guy.
Kai,
absolutely.
Great guy. Love him. We've been talking a lot. I actually have been helping get some victims into the lawyers for the Nygaard case because, as it turns out, I know a lot of them. I went to the Playboy Mansion on a pretty regular basis. And as a patron of the Playboy Mansion, being up there on a Sunday, a lot of times I would hear the girls saying they were leaving to go to this pamper party. Pamper party? What is that? What is that? And they would say, oh, we go over to this guy's house, this guy, Peter Nygaard, we go to his house. He has massages and it's like a spa day. But then some of us are really lucky and he hands out envelopes of cash. And I was like, okay, that sounds like prostitution to me, but I don't know. And I didn't really understand what any of it was about. I didn't realize that it was all a ploy and a way to lure girls in by promising, spa days or gifts of money or whatever. And it wasn't prostitution by any stretch. It was manipulation and him making girls believe that they were getting, just well taken care of by this very generous man who obviously had his own plans and his own agenda.
Yeah, and they'd get to the island and have their passports confiscated, and if they didn't comply, they would be drugged and assaulted. And if people want to see that interview, I'll put it in the description box below the video of my interview with Kai. What are your thoughts on the Epstein case?
Don't get me started. I think it's all connected, my friend. It's all connected. I know this for a fact. Epstein is 100% connected to Hollywood. So is Peter Nygaard. Epstein is obviously very connected to the high up political end, as was Nygaard. The connections draw deep, and to me, the main thing people should be investigating in Hollywood is Brian. How is this going ignored? How is Brian getting a pass? Yeah, okay, he's not working, but he's getting a pass. Let's make no mistakes about that. Brian continued to thrive in his career all the way up until the Queen movie, right? Even though everybody knew what he was doing behind the scenes. Everybody knew about the parties, quote, parties at his house, where he was doing just god-awful things to people, along with his partners, the people that we all exposed in the film, in My Truth. We talk about all of this. But Brian How is he connected to Brock? How is Brock connected? How are they connected to Jeffrey Epstein? Follow the breadcrumbs, and I'm pretty sure that anybody can see that these things go all the way to the top and they're well hidden. But at the end of the day, Shaun, I'm not a private investigator. I'm not a detective. I'm basically just considered a big mouth who's, talking out of his ass. So what do I know?
The fact that that reaction has occurred proves that you're over the target, and you have many people all over the world who love and support you. So don't underestimate the importance of the work you're doing, that you've done, and going forward. I urge you just to keep going on this crusade and exposing these. Now, we've seen Ghislaine Maxwell get arrested, the procurer. We saw Jean-Luc Brunel get arrested. Do you think they will slip through the cracks of the legal system, or justice will be served?
I guess we're going to find out really, soon if there was any truth to any of the Q stuff, right? I mean, all they've done for the last 4 years since Donald Trump was in office is talk about how everybody on the left side is pedophiles and all the people on the right are saintly. So we're going to find out what Joe Biden does with this. By the way, I think I've made it kind of clear, but I'm going to be making a very, asserted effort to try to get FaceTime with President Biden, FaceTime with Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, because I am told that they care very much about trafficking and that is a big issue for them. Kamala Harris was actually, she cut her teeth on helping support victims. That was like her big thing in San Francisco, what she did. So I'm very hopeful that they want to get to the bottom of this. And I'm hopeful that they will at some point take a meeting with me and at least hear my story and maybe put some type of a collation together. We've got to get to the bottom of it. And I hope to God that the people that are in power are going to do something this term and they're going to listen. And I pray that they take a meeting with me. I pray that they hear my story and all the things. Because you have to understand one thing is that obviously I'm never going to talk about this. As I said, I'm never going to talk about this publicly again unless there is a major cultural shift. And that there has to be a major change to where people like me are taken seriously and given the respect that we deserve, so we don't have to live in fear every day. Because I can't live like this anymore. I've got to move on. I mean, I have to. I'm in trauma. I'm experiencing PTSD. I cry myself to sleep every night. I'm living in fear on a daily basis. My life is in shambles.
Well, it's those titans of the old media that are orchestrating this against you. And it's the new media like YouTube, the platforms that you're on now, that make the spreading of this word possible. So I commend you for keeping it going.
And what people need to understand is there was a reason why I had to spend $1.3 million on insurance to get this truth out. How much did they spend on Out of Shadows for insurance? How much did they spend on Fall of Cabal for insurance? $0. Zero. Why? Because they were not tried and true facts that could be thrown against the wall and verified in a court of law if they had to be. There was not 2 and 3 corroborators of every fact. These are the specific guidelines that they look for when approving an insurance policy. So therefore, you can't just go out there and spat a bunch of stuff and put it into a movie like mine. So the fact is, when you see movies like this where they're just spouting off celebrity names and, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and Quentin Tarantino, everybody's part of it. They're not all part of it. I can tell you that much. I've worked with these people. They're not all part of it. But that said, I believe that a lot of people look the other way, and a lot of people are certainly looking the other way when it comes to my treatment. Nobody cares about what happens to Corey Feldman as long as the blood's not on their hands. That's what I feel. And it's heartbreaking, man. You got to understand, this was my family growing up. That's all I've known. And I don't know what to do with the rest of my life if I can't continue doing what I do. But how do I go back to work feeling safe? I was doing a very specific job. I was part of a committee to create legislation to protect the laws in regards to children on the set in the workplace. That was my mission. That was what I was there to do. Gabrielle took a call from a woman who was not a SAG actress, had nothing to do with SAG, and it just so happened to be the day of a town hall that I was supposed to do for the entire union to put out my new laws and my new legislation to protect children. What would have been so bad about me just putting that out there? What would have been so bad about just allowing me to go through with that conference and getting the information out of how we could change the laws? And by the way, let me say this was 3 days before the new contracts were voted on. And those new contracts left out any language pertaining to the protection of children. Okay? So I was trying to implement these changes before the vote. That's why I had the town hall set up. And the day of the town hall, I was asked to step down. All because Gabrielle had a conversation with this woman named Jackie, who we have proven through the media was a girlfriend of Manson.
Have you tried yoga and meditation, Corey?
Yeah, I meditate. I pray more than anything. I'm a very spiritual person, and I wouldn't still be alive if it wasn't for the hand of God. I can assure you that.
Have you read The Little Prince, the book?
I think when I was a kid.
Well, he's following his heart and you're following your heart, and I commend you for what you're doing. Really appreciate you spending this time with us. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the people watching this who are worried about their kids?
Well, we can never stop fighting for the kids. We can never stop fighting for what's right. Please support kids too. Please follow Child USA. And even if I'm not going to be the guy that's, leading the charge anymore, because I just can't emotionally take anymore, I will never stop fighting behind the scenes. I will never stop fighting for children. And I also want to say one other thing on record. There's been horrible, disgusting accusations leveled against me by these girls, not by anybody else. Just very clearly, it's the same 3 women since 3 years ago. They all work together, Jackie, Paulina, Margot. They're all part of Man World. I can prove it all day. I've got investigators that have put all of this evidence together so that if there ever was a court case, we're going to nail them to the cross. But I just want to say that I would never harm another human being that was innocent, no matter what. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't force me. You couldn't bribe me to ever take advantage of another human, because it's not in my fiber. I don't know how to do that. I know how to love. I know how to give compassion. I'm an artist, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, as many people know. I love everybody, and I hope and pray for the healing of children and of women. So I pray for all of us, and I pray that God helps us through this, because I don't know where I'm going to find my strength. But I'm planning on taking the film down. I'm taking the film down after March 10th. I mean, I suppose if the film comes down March 10th, it's on sale right now for $10. You can find it at mytruthdoc.com. I want as many people to experience it and watch it before I take it down as possible. But once I have to move on, and I just want people to know I've stuck it out for a year. I've done my absolute best. I've dealt with a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of torture. And my wife, God bless her, she has been through so much. My child has been through so much. They've had to watch their family members struggle in this fear. They've had to watch these awful, horrible lies being told about the man that they love. So I just want to tell everybody enough is enough. I've got to stop it. But that said, I'm giving you until the 10th. And if for some reason there was a tremendous outpouring of love and support, and we just started selling, you know, oogles of tickets all of a sudden, and everybody was wanting to watch the film, I would say, okay, fine, we'll extend it, you know, till the end of March. And that's as far as I could go with it. Because again, I don't think it's worth it if I'm being ignored. You know, and I know that the people in the world aren't ignoring me, the public isn't ignoring me, but Shaun, we're selling 100 tickets every 3 weeks. That's just not worth it. It's not worth the pain. And I'm not talking financially, I'm talking viewership. And then people say, well, why don't you just put it out for free? You know, if you really cared, you'd put it out for free. Well, yeah, except for the fact that it's a commodity and somebody will be making money on it. So do I want people making money on my message? Is that what I want? Do I want them draining and liquidizing this even further? Or do I want to hold it close to my heart and maybe keep it right there forever because it's mine and I made it and I own it? And it's the one thing that I've got that tells me that this all really happened. So I hope people can understand and respect my choice. I know there's going to be people saying I'm a quitter and I'm, you know, I gave up and all this stuff. But you know what? If anybody had stood with me, I would keep fighting. That's the truth.
To get this far, you are a brave soul and definitely not a quitter. And the purity of your soul has just been resonating for this past hour. I've got your back. You're going to see when this video goes out, the viewers are going to have your back. And there's just so many people all over the world just rooting for you and just wishing you to continue and succeed. So I urge people, if you go in the description box, you'll see the link to the documentary. I watched it. Really a heartbreaking moment when you cut your hair. Well, I won't tell people what that's about. They can watch it and find that out for themselves. So again, huge thank you for coming on. And everybody watching this, please go down the description box for the links.
God bless us all. Thank you, Shaun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey.